Welcome. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of BigTalk. I'm your host here, Aben, and today we're going to be discussing love and limerence. So to set the scene, I was at home with one of my friends, Christian. Right? If you don't remember Christian, he's one of the guys that co-hosted on my episode on esports gaming. Right? So we're at my house, and we're listening to this song by Percy Sledge that's entitled When a Man Loves a Woman. If you haven't heard this song, I highly encourage you go and listen to it before watching this episode. So again, the song's by Percy Sledge. It's entitled When a Man Loves a Woman. Right, so we were listening to the song, and by the end of it, Christian struck up conversation about one of his past relationships that closely relates to the song. Right, so without further ado, let's get into it. The one line in the song summarizes the entire song, and it summarizes the entire central idea behind the song, and that's that if she plays him a fool, he'll be the last one to know. Loving eyes can never see. It's like love is blinding in that way, man. It's you know, and you hear about people talking about all the time, like how love makes them do crazy things. You know, love can make you move across the country. Love can make you send $5,000 to another country, and you never even seen the person in person, right? You video chatted them or you text them, right?
For some reason, I felt like I didn't love a certain person because of that. I just didn't feel like that, and I thought that was wrong.
It's very easy to confuse love with limerence, right? Limerence is kind of like what you see in the media. The butterflies. You just want to know everything about them. You want them to reciprocate that feeling.
Yeah.
You know, their breath doesn't really stink, and you know, like you know what I mean? Like that's limerence, right? The in love feeling, I'll call it, for lack of better words, right? What we see in the media. And that's good and all, but I don't think that's enough to sustain a relationship. That's not really good. So I know you're saying like, hey, I didn't really feel that, and that's what I thought and love them. But honestly, man, like that's the thing that people go and get married on. That's the thing that people establish these long-term relationships on, because it's like a tank of gas, right? That kind of gas is bad gas, and eventually the car goes empty. Right, that's really it. Like that feeling fades away after time. It could be 2 days, it could be 2 months, it could be 2 years, but that feeling eventually fades because it's an emotion, right? It's a chemical thing. It goes away. It's not foundational. People confuse limerence with love in that way. Love to me is more so like a commitment, right? It's a conscious choice to be committed to someone, and let's say if it's a wife or a husband, in an intimate way, right? Be with them forever, love them, sickness and health, the whole nine, right? It's a conscious decision. It's a commitment. I don't want to say it's a job, but it takes work. It's not as simple as like some little butterfly feeling that you get that will go away after a couple months that makes you want to, you know, stare at them while they're sleeping. You know, I would say that's more so limerence, a temporary thing that will fade. Love is much more powerful than that. And maybe the guy in the song, maybe Percy is talking about, maybe he is talking about more so limerence. Like he said, man, spend his last dime, sleep out in the rain if that's the way she say it ought to be. That's heavy, bro.
Yeah.
That's real heavy. I don't know. And it's like some of the guys I listen to now, kind of study their works, whatever. A lot of them don't commit to relationships. A lot of them are single, and they live this MGTOW monk mode type lifestyle, right? They choose to take all of their energy and put it into things they want versus putting that energy into a, you know, in a perfect world, a nurturing place of, you know, the nurturing hands of a woman. And, you know, there's power in that too, but I don't know, man, I'm kind of a lover boy. I would get lonely and whatever. Well, the old me would get lonely and all that stuff. Now I think I've come more to a place where a relationship is good and a relationship is nurturing and all those things. But I don't really need one, you know? Like, I don't need a relationship or a woman to be happy. And I would hope that women don't need men to be happy, right? Or any of that. But you were saying, like, you didn't fall in love. You didn't feel like you loved her because you didn't have the butterflies, right?
Not really that. It's just literally that last line. Like, I felt like she wasn't my world. Like, I was content. I can't say I was not attractive to her body or her.
You were content. What does that mean?
I was fine with it.
So are you saying you were settled?
Pretty much. I was never like, yes, I was sad in a way, like every time, like, when you fight, you're just fine with it.
But I mean, I'm trying to understand what you mean by content, right? Because you said you were fine with how she looked, basically, right? And it's
no. I love how she looks. I was content with the relationship. I was fine with it, and that never really pushed it to the next level of like being happy or whatever. I was just content. I was fun with it. A job.
But that's the thing, look, because content can be double-sided, right? So I'm trying to understand if when you say content, do you mean does that come from a place of settling, as in this is what I have in front of me, and life tells me, or media tells me, something tells me that there could be something better out there, and I definitely see that there's things that are worse out there. So I'm going to take what I have, I'm going to be grateful for what I have, and I'm just going to settle down, I'm going to lock it down and be content. Or is it in a way of like, does it come from a place of fulfillment, right? Is it content as in this person completes me in the ways that I need to be completed, and I don't feel the need to look for anything else because I feel completed. I don't feel like there's anything else I need out there. Therefore, this is the person for me, right? Content as in fulfilled, or content as in settling?
Content as in fulfilled, but understanding we needed work, and we weren't really doing it.
What do you mean?
Just needed work. Trust issues. And I always tell you the mind's a tricky place, and it's really hard to understand it. And mine plays with me all the time. So that was not good when you can't trust each other and you're just content.
Well, it sounds more so like insecurity.
Well, I don't know. Like I was content, but the fact that like there was no trust, I never really questioned.
But okay, why was there no trust? Right, we're gonna get down to it.
That's the thing. Like I never really worried she was cheating on me or not, because that, like, if it happens, it happens. It was more like, why do you not trust me? What am I doing that you're not able to trust me?
Yeah,
and that always like brought up questions and stupid lies.
But I mean, so a lack of trust in your situation, it sounds like, and I think it's common, is I say insecurity because that's the way it can manifest itself, but at its root cause, it sounds like fear, right? Which again can manifest itself into insecurities.
Yeah.
Now I know you said that's not on your end, but if a person can't trust you, let's say most common thing is probably trust you not to cheat on them. Let's say be faithful, be committed to monogamy.
Mm-hmm.
Either one of two things. Well, no matter if you cheated on them in the past or if you've never cheated on them and they just had bad experience in relationships throughout their life, that's fear. That's keeping them from trusting you, and fear manifesting itself as insecurities, right? Which can cause a bunch of problems. And would you say that's you had insecurities as well, or would you say it was one-sided on her end?
I have my insecurities, but they're personal. It's never towards my relationship. I have my problems, but like it's usually with myself.
But that doesn't make sense, right? Because in a relationship, in a committed relationship, right? I say marriage all the time because, that's pretty stereotypical.
Yeah.
But I think that the same foundations and principles and fulfillment can kind of be established throughout a normal relationship, right?
Yeah.
Because really marriage is just a courtship, right? It's a legal process, blah, 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 blah.
Paper.
I think, as far as the emotional and intimate, connection has nothing to do with the marriage process. When I say marriage, I'm not talking about the commitment. I'm talking about the paperwork, right?
Yeah.
So in a committed relationship, you need trust and communication and all those things. And if you don't trust someone, then that sounds like an insecurity problem, again, which comes from fear. If you have an insecurity problem that you say is personal to you, right? It's you and you have your problems and whatever. There's almost no way it won't affect your relationship, because in a relationship, it's essentially two people becoming one, two people living their lives together, going through the journey of life together.
Yeah.
So if you're going to become one, that means that your problems become her problems and her problems become your problems. So if you have insecurities that are personal to you, they will manifest in your relationship. Because if you're merging, right, if you got this thing plus this thing and you're combining together and becoming one thing, then how can your stuff not touch her? How could it not rub off on her if it exists in you? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
If you have a bowl of apples and one raisin in the bowl, and then you have another bowl of pineapples and you mix them together, it's not going to just be pineapples and apples. It's going to be pineapples, apples, and one raisin. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, I'm interested to see how your opinion on how your insecurities that are personal you don't affect your relationship.
Well, to be honest, I never thought of it that way. I didn't think they affected us because I guess at the time the way I was thinking was like, okay, I'm committed. I don't understand why she doesn't trust me, but I'm trying to trust her. I'm doing my work.
Have you given her any reason not to trust you? Like you cheated in the past, you got caught with some funny text messages on your phone, you got caught with some weird DMs. Like, have you given her a reason?
No, not that I know of.
So, yeah, it sounds like insecurity on her end. And, you really can't fix a person, right? You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink, right? You can comfort her as much as you want, and you can reassure her as much as you want, and you can, get down on bended knee and text her 20 times a day, whatever it takes, but you can't flip that switch. That has to be a conscious decision and, most importantly, a conscious effort on her end to fix that. There's nothing that you can change.
Well, it's funny because she thought that was the thing that was going to fix it. And I guess one of the problems is that I wasn't doing it. Like, I don't know. I'm not the kind of person to text you 20 times a day, check up on you. Like, I barely text my best friend, and that's the person I would take a bullet for.
Yeah.
I text him once a month. Hey, man, how you doing? How's life? How's everything going? Yeah. I mean, I understand you're my partner. I'll text you throughout the day, but I'm working. You're working. I got goals. You got goals. Concentrate on them. I don't know. I don't really feel like I have to keep an eye on you.
It sounds like a salve, right? It sounds like there's a wound, right? A gaping wound. And you put, you've heard of like old Western times they had salve, right? They put like this little solution on it and it takes the burning away or takes the stinging away. But it doesn't necessarily heal the wound. Just like a Band-Aid on a bullet hole. Just temporarily takes the feeling of pain away, right? Texting you all the time, it sounds like that. Again, for that insecurity to be fixed, that's something that she has to consciously work on. There's nothing you can do about it. If the relationship was salvageable, have you tried talking to her about it? Like, hey, you have an insecurity problem. Let's talk about it. Let's get through it together. Let's work on it. But Band-Aids ain't gonna fix it.
I haven't. I've thought about it. Pretty sure it's a question everybody asks themselves, but I'm just like, is it even worth it?
Mm-hmm.
I've thought about it, and I'm like, I kind of understand what it is now. Maybe I can give her a push, or maybe this can work. Maybe it can be great. But that question's always there. Is it worth it? I'm trying to fix myself as well. I'm finding new things every day, learning new things. I don't really know if I really want to spend all this time if you're not going to put in the effort.
There's nothing wrong with that. And that's honestly what I encourage people to think. One of the topics, again, we were talking about earlier, that how love isn't enough for a relationship, especially when we're talking about the essence of limerence, where it's a temporary thing, it fades. So it's not foundational. You can't have that as the concrete, the floor of a committed relationship. It just doesn't work because it fades. And what happens? Everything on top of it falls, right? In that light, man, you have to factor in, both parties have to factor in what they want. Because everything is energy, right? Energy is not going to be created or destroyed. It's only going to be transferred or, as some people might say, transmuted, right? So everything costs something, right? There's nothing that's going to be free in this world. It's going to take some kind of energy. Now, that may be a physical energy, like, you call in, text in 20, I don't know, whatever. That may be a spiritual energy of you, paying for things with your emotions. But it's going to cost something. And there's nothing wrong with using the brain that you have, right, this physical gift, using that to analyze and assess how much energy something is going to cost and deciding on if that energy expenditure is worth, the product, if it's worth what you're going to get in the end. Nothing wrong with that, assessing that. I think a lot of people feel guilty about that, like thinking about is worth it, being
and I'm not discouraged. For a little bit I did, but that's something we all got. That's a lot of energy, man. You put a lot of energy into someone else.
For sure.
I mean, you might not even know it, but later on you might create a life with them, and that's more energy you're putting into them and another life, bro. If you haven't even, finished the job by that time. Because, there's bad relationships everywhere.
Exactly. It's like, if I'm going to go car shopping, right? And I can go, let's say, to a little lot. If I go and I see a 1985 Civic, right? And then there's a brand new Civic, 2020 Civic, right? If I look at that 1980 Civic, I have to assess what needs to be done, right? I need a new transmission, I need new axle, I need whatever, parts for this thing. And I know that that's going to take a certain amount of work to fix that car up, to get that thing running. And I know that it's going to take a certain amount of money and resources. Overall, it's going to take a certain amount of energy to get this car started and get it running again. But if I look at the brand new Civic, I know how much energy it's going to take to get that car running. None, right? I put the key in and I start the thing, right? There's nothing wrong with assessing. Now, some people might look at that 1980 Civic and they have a love for 1980 Civic. And they know that the amount of energy it's going to take, and they value that 80 Civic so much that they're willing to put that effort and that time and spend the energy on fixing it. It all depends on you. Are you willing to fix a Civic or not? Because maybe you don't want to put that energy into fixing a Civic. You could put that energy into fixing up a Corvette or fixing up a truck or something. Or maybe you don't want to put energy in at all. You want it already done. You want the 2020 Civic. There's nothing wrong with assessing that, and nothing wrong with, making that decision for yourself. That's not selfish. I think in our society it can be written off as being selfish because traditionally it can be that way. But honestly, man, like, I say this in the least insensitive way. You were born in this world alone. When you die, right, physically when you die, it's going to be alone, right? So in all actuality, human nature says that we kind of have to look out for ourselves in that way. And that doesn't come from a selfish place. That comes from a self-valuing place, right? I know myself, I'm worth something. I want what I want, and I need what I need, and that's it. And I hope that you can mesh with me, but if you can't, whatevs, So assessing that is, man, the smartest thing you can do. Because now you're going to get roped into something. People get roped into these things, married for 30 years, whatever, and then get out and hate their lives, man. Realize they wasted so much time and energy and all that, man. And it's good that you realize that you don't want to be that guy. Now, again, that's not to say that you should just be non-settling and non-compromising, right? That you expect and want perfection, because that's very hard to find. To acquire that, you'd have to have perfection in yourself, which is very hard to obtain. So there, I assume would be some degree of settling in any relationship, but how much settling, how much work, how much energy? That's really the question. And are you willing to give that?